Welcome back to Talk for Impact, the podcast where ideas meet action.
We are thrilled to have you for our second episode in the business series.
If you're tuning in for the first time,
Talk for Impact is more than just a podcast.
it's a platform for growth, learning, and giving back.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into a crucial topic for anyone thinking about starting a business.
Or currently in the thick of it.
Common mistakes entrepreneurs make.
Ooh, I like that. Common mistakes entrepreneurs make.
It's a really compelling area because so many are drawn to the allure of entrepreneurship.
Right.
Being your own boss, the potential for big impact, setting your own schedule, and maybe even achieving financial freedom. It's a powerful draw.
Absolutely. You know that image of charting your own course, calling the shots? It's incredibly attractive.
Yeah.
But what often gets lost in that initial excitement is the sheer, dedication and hard work required to transform that vision into a tangible reality.
That's the core tension, isn't it? The dream often clashes with the very demanding nature of building something from scratch.
Right.
We're talking about putting in more hours than a typical job, carrying a significant weight of responsibility, and constantly navigating uncertainty.
Which brings us to, I think, our first misstep.
Okay.
Going into entrepreneurship thinking it will be easy.
Ah, yes.
It's like expecting to win a marathon, having never run a mile.
Exactly. And the more effective approach is to go in with your eyes wide open. Expect those long hours, understand that progress might be gradual initially, and be ready to constantly learn and adapt.
Think of it as a long-distance race,
Yeah,
not a sprint to the finish line.
not a sprint, no.
So we know that unrealistic expectations can set you up for a fall.
Right.
Let's dig into another one. Lack of thorough market research.
Okay.
We've all encountered someone with a game-changing idea
Oh, I know this one.
that all their friends raved about,
Yeah.
only to find out that enthusiasm doesn't translate into sales.
It's a story we hear all too often.
I know, right? So you invest so much energy and belief into building this thing, convinced it's going to be huge, but then the market simply doesn't respond. What's the fundamental reason behind this disconnect?
Well, what's really interesting here is how easily entrepreneurs can become so attached to their own solution that they neglect to rigorously check if there's actually a significant problem that people are willing to pay to solve.
Okay.
They might be addressing a very niche issue that affects very few people, or even worse, solving a problem that people aren't particularly bothered by in the first place.
So what's the proactive step entrepreneurs can take to avoid this pitfall? How do they prevent pouring their resources into something the market doesn't want?
The crucial step is to get out and talk directly to your potential target customers
Okay.
before you invest heavily in development.
I see.
You need to validate whether there's genuine demand for what you're thinking of offering.
Validate demand before development.
Exactly. Aim to disprove your idea, not just confirm it. Your passion doesn't equal paying customers.
And what kind of questions should entrepreneurs be asking these potential customers? Just asking, do you like my idea? It doesn't really cut it, does it?
Not at all. You need to delve deeper
Okay.
into their needs and frustrations.
Right.
Asking direct questions like, would you actually pay for this? And even more critically, what would make this worth paying X amount for?
Right.
Can provide incredibly valuable insights. You want to understand their pain points, what solutions they might already be using, if any, and what they're willing to spend to address their problem.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about gauging real-world demand, not just relying on your own intuition or the encouragement of your inner circle.
Exactly.
So what's the key takeaway here?
Well, the significant benefit of doing this upfront research is that it can save you considerable time, money, and a lot of heartache down the line.
Okay.
By ensuring you're focusing your efforts on building something that genuinely meets a market need and that people are willing to exchange their money for.
Moving on to the third common mistake, and this is something I think many can relate to, especially in the early stages.
Yeah.
The urge for entrepreneurs to try and handle absolutely everything themselves.
Oh, yeah. I've certainly seen this play out.
Absolutely. In the initial phase, particularly when finances are tight, it can feel almost necessary. You find yourself juggling multiple roles, from marketing and sales to accounting, and maybe even designing your own logo and handling all customer inquiries.
It sounds utterly overwhelming.
Just thinking about managing all those different areas, right? What are the negative consequences of trying to wear all those hats simultaneously?
Well, the most significant downsides are often burnout. that feeling of complete exhaustion.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a tendency towards mediocrity across the board.
Uh,
When you're spread too thin, it's incredibly difficult to excel in any single area. You might get tasks done, but not necessarily to a high standard.
so what sets successful entrepreneurs apart in this regard?
Well, successful entrepreneurs have a strong understanding of their own strengths.
Okay.
And even more importantly, they recognize when it's time to seek assistance in areas where they lack expertise or where their time could be more strategically focused.
Right.
They understand that delegation and building a strong network or team are crucial for sustainable growth.
And what are some practical ways entrepreneurs can access this needed help?
Well, there are various avenues.
Yeah.
Hiring freelancers for specific projects, seeking out experienced mentors who can provide guidance, or building a strong core team as soon as financially feasible are all important steps.
Right.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to operate in isolation.
I love that. It's easy to feel like you have to maintain control over every aspect, but it sounds like strategically letting go in certain areas can actually lead to greater overall control and effectiveness.
Precisely.
So if you're out there feeling bogged down by an endless to-do list, remember that it's perfectly acceptable and often essential to seek support and not try to do it all on your own.
So important.
Okay, so let's pivot now
Okay.
to a topic that can make even the most enthusiastic entrepreneurs a bit uneasy.
Ooh, I like this one too.
Financials. This is our fourth common mistake, ignoring the numbers.
It's genuinely surprising how many entrepreneurs pour their energy into their product or marketing, but don't develop a solid grasp of their financial situation.
Right.
They might be actively building, selling, and promoting, but they lack a fundamental understanding of their costs, their profit margin,
margins, yeah.
how much money you keep after covering your costs for each sale, or their cash flow,
Yeah,
the movement of money in and out of your business over time.
it's so key.
Profit isn't an accident. It's a result of diligent tracking and understanding your unit economics from day one.
And as we touched on earlier, that lack of financial literacy can be incredibly risky for the long-term viability of the business. So what are some typical financial errors you see entrepreneurs making?
There are several recurring ones.
Okay.
Pricing their products or services too low. Okay.
Often driven by fear or a desire to undercut competitors is a significant issue.
I see.
Then there's the temptation to spend too rapidly, especially in the early stages before revenue streams are consistent.
Right.
Neglecting to meticulously track expenses, overlooking tax obligations until the last minute, and perhaps most critically, not having a clear understanding of their break-even point.
Yeah.
These are all major red flags.
So what's the recommended approach here? How can entrepreneurs who might not have a financial background get a better handle on their numbers?
Even if spreadsheets aren't your passion, you need to become intimately familiar with your financials.
Right.
Utilize user-friendly accounting software and financial tools,
Okay.
perhaps even basic budgeting apps.
Yeah.
Consider engaging a part-time bookkeeper or a financial advisor who can help you interpret the story your numbers are telling. It's about shifting from avoidance to a state of informed awareness.
So it's not just about glancing at the final balance occasionally, but truly understanding the underlying factors that influence it. Exactly. Your business's survival and growth are fundamentally linked to effective financial management.
Right.
It might not be the most glamorous aspect of entrepreneurship, but it's absolutely indispensable.
All right, let's move on to our fifth mistake. This one requires a degree of humility and adaptability, being resistant to pivoting.
Okay, I see where we're going with this one.
This is where an entrepreneur's initial vision,
Yeah,
while important for getting started, can sometimes become a hindrance.
right.
They launch with a specific idea, a particular way of operating, and even when the market provides clear signals that it's not working, they stubbornly adhere to their original plan.
It's like continuing to sail in the wrong direction, simply because that's where you initially set your course, despite all the evidence suggesting you need to change tack.
What's the core problem with this lack of flexibility?
Well, the fundamental issue is a lack of willingness to evolve.
Okay.
The business environment is constantly in flux. Markets shift, customer preferences change, and new technologies emerge. If you're not prepared to adapt, you risk becoming irrelevant and missing out on potentially more viable opportunities.
So what indicators should entrepreneurs be watching for that might signal it's time to consider a change in direction?
Pay very close attention to customer feedback, both positive and negative. Scrutinize your sales data, website analytics, and any other metrics that indicate how your product or service is being received. If the data consistently points to a mismatch or a lack of traction, it's definitely time to consider a pivot.
And pivoting doesn't necessarily mean abandoning everything you've built, right?
Yeah, I know, not at all.
It could involve more subtle adjustments.
Exactly.
Okay.
A pivot can range from a minor refinement to your product features or marketing strategy to a more significant shift in your target audience,
Right.
or even complete overhaul of your business model. The crucial element is the willingness to make changes based on what the market is telling you,
Right.
even if it means letting go of certain aspects of your initial vision.
So ultimately, it's about prioritizing the success of the business over an emotional attachment to the original idea.
Precisely.
Success in entrepreneurship often goes to those who are agile and willing to adapt to the ever-changing landscape.
So true.
Finally, let's discuss a mistake that can paralyze even the most enthusiastic, aspiring business owners: falling into the perfection trap.
Ah, yes.
The elusive quest for the perfect launch.
Right.
Some entrepreneurs invest an enormous amount of time, sometimes stretching into months or even years,
Yet it happens.
delaying their launch because they're waiting for every single detail, the logo, the website design, the product features, to be absolutely flawless.
I see this one all the time.
It's understandable to want to make a strong first impression, but at what point does this pursuit of perfection become counterproductive?
Well, the fundamental issue is that perfect is often an illusion,
Okay,
particularly in the early stages of a business.
right.
You can endlessly refine and improve, but you won't gain real-world feedback until you actually put your offering out there in front of customers.
So what's a more effective strategy?
Well, the guiding principle here is often done is better than perfect.
I like that.
The priority should be to launch a viable minimum product or service as quickly as possible, even if it doesn't perfectly align with your initial grand vision.
Right.
This allows you to start gathering crucial customer feedback, testing your core assumptions, and learning what resonates and what doesn't.
So the act of launching itself becomes a vital part of the learning and refinement process.
Exactly. You launch, you collect data on how customers interact with your offering, you learn from their responses, and then you iterate and improve based on that real-world feedback.
Right.
Waiting for some unattainable state of perfection simply delays that critical learning process
Okay.
and can lead to missed opportunities in the market.
So just to quickly recap the 6 key mistakes we've explored today.
Okay.
We have romanticizing the difficulty of entrepreneurship,
Number 1.
neglecting essential market research,
Number 2.
trying to handle everything on your own,
Number 3.
ignoring your business's financial health,
Number 4.
being unwilling to adapt and pivot when necessary,
Number 5.
and getting stuck in the pursuit of a flawless but never-ending perfect launch.
Number 6.
And the encouraging news is that each of these mistakes is avoidable.
It boils down to self-awareness, a continuous commitment to learning and growth, and building a strong support network around yourself.
That's great. Thank you so much for providing such valuable insights
It's my pleasure.
into these common entrepreneurial pitfalls.
You're so welcome.
If this deep dive has offered you some clarity or sparked a new way of thinking, please consider sharing it with someone else who might benefit.
Yeah.
That's how we collectively grow and learn.
And remember, by supporting Talk for Impact, you're not only expanding your own knowledge, but also contributing to our efforts to make a positive impact in the world.
We'll be back this Saturday with episode 3 in our business series, Business Models. Which one is right for you?
We'll see you then.
Until then, stay curious, stay committed, and keep making an impact.
Bye.